We are pleased to welcome back someone with a resume so impressive that we are going to list off another round of highlights from the long list of films that he has worked on. The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, Cheech and Chong's next movie, The Deer Hunter, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Exorcist 3, Mac and Me, Spaceballs, Heat, Short Circuit, Cobra, The Goonies, City Heat, Cannonball Run 2, Staying Alive, and of course the reason why he is being here today, Being There. Thank you very much to cinematographer, camera operator extraordinaire, Mr. Nick McLean, for coming back on. How are you doing, Nick?
Good, very good.
You wasted the one opportunity to say one thing in there. And good friend of the show, Nick McLean. Like he's coming back, man.
Is part 3.
Yeah, there you go.
Which reminds me, be sure to check out our previous interview we did with Nick back in season 2 when we did the Goonies, which we take a bit deeper dive into the career. Mm-hmm. Today we'll be sticking primarily to Being There.
Congratulations. Happy birthday. I don't know when it was, but one thing we got to know, how the hell has 80 been so far?
It's okay. It's I've been retired now about 15 years, so I just enjoy every day. You don't know how many days you have left at this age, so you just try and enjoy it, which I do.
You were talking about a party last time. Did that happen?
It happened. It was here at this house. It was incredible. 3 of my buddies who also turned 80 within about a month. And we had a lot of old high school friends. And my first wife even showed up. We had a wonderful time.
Wow.
That's awesome.
We can only hope to make it to 80. I know you don't want to, but I said 83, right? I want to check out at 83, right?
Yeah, I'm looking for like 60.
All right. Okay, cool. I'll make preparations.
Well, I wanted to thank you, first of all, for insisting that we cover Being There, because it was a gem. Like I said in the email, it was just a really special movie.
Yeah.
So what for you, when you recommended that, and when you recommend it in general, what makes it a great movie for you to recommend to people?
I think the reason I recommended it to you guys, because it was my favorite film I've ever done of all times. When you look back at it and see the content and the director of photography and Peter Sellers, and, we were back at that Asheville. The big mansion was in North Carolina, the Asheville mansion. So we worked there for 2 or 3 months, I guess. And we were in Washington, D.C. for a month. And it was just a good group of people, and it was done well.
What's amazing about you saying that to me is that out of your very popular and very well-known career, most people know probably 95% of your resume, but the common fan does not know Being There. And for you to say that's one of the most favorite films you've done of all time actually speaks to that. So let me ask you this, specifically when it came to that film, can you explain what your role was with the production and what led you to working on it?
I was the camera operator, and Caleb Dagenel was the first cameraman, and I'd met Caleb when he was about 20 years old, and he was like a nobody. He was doing commercials, and he was off to do this picture that I thought was like a grammar school deal called The Black Stallion. I thought, oh boy. And when I saw that, I knew he was a keeper. And then I did another one with him. I think before Being There, I did The Right Stuff. I did the aerials, the air to air on The Right Stuff. And then I think we went from there, and he asked me to stay with him going on Being There. And I had not worked with Hal Ashby, and that was a plus. I wanted to work with Hal. So that was, I said, yep, I'll do it.
So for the layman's out there, myself included, when it comes to the credits in bigger budget films, when you say camera operator, I was looking on the IMDb page and I saw you were the only camera operator. There is assistants and things like that. But is my presumption correct that you were actually holding the camera?
That's correct. You're the guy that looks through the camera and reports to the director afterwards. And I was a camera operator before they had video. So they gave me a lot of responsibility. When they say cut, it was kind of up to me whether it was good or bad, or whether we wanted to do another one. So if you got a real good reputation, you got a lot of good movie offers, which I luckily did.
So you were essentially the only one seeing what was going in the can until it was.
Well, actually, on Being There, I think we had video. So I think Hal could see it back by the director's chairs there. They had a video monitor for Hal.
Okay.
That's amazing. One of the things that I want to go ahead and give you kudos for, especially with you telling me that, is that when I was watching the film, I just appreciated, like, even though I love the world of DSLRs, there is nothing like, and there will never be anything like actual film.
Mhm.
And this actual movie showcased that to a level that I'm not going to get into. But like you say, I feel how you feel with that. So this was my segue. I wanted to ask, you mentioned Caleb. He was the director of photography. What was it like actually working with him on this?
It was pretty good. He had never worked with a camera operator before. So he kind of questioned my framing and stuff the first 2 or 3 days. But then he figured out that I kind of knew what I was doing, and he never bothered me again. And we became good friends.
Yeah, no. How you think this happened? It's okay. Go ahead. I won't start today.
Well, unlike him, I'm sure you give me reasons to.
Well, hey, but I not deliver like UPS? I will deliver.
1:59 p.m. I get a text message from him saying, "I'm coming in hot. Be ready." I'm like, I've been ready.
And am I not here?
Yeah, right on the edge. Hal Ashby does not get nearly the credit he deserves, and it was only confirmed watching this. Like, it's a shame that his career didn't just kind of blow up after this. And I am firmly under the belief that if this film was like Stanley Kubrick's Being There, you would hear about it a lot more, be held in a much higher regard. People would be worshiping it.
I saw that in the notes you sent me, and you're probably right about that.
What was Hal like to work with?
You know, he was a editor before he was a director. And I think, I'm not positive, but I think he edited the Thomas Crown Affair. And that's where he might have even won the Academy Award for that. And then, so that's how he got started. And, you know, he's one of those guys that hitchhiked out from the West or the East Coast when he was a kid and went to work for nothing and worked his way up. And he was just a pleasure. The guy was just great. And an inside story about how he loved to party. And we were doing the Rolling Stone concert, which Hal directed and Caleb shot, actually. And we had like 10 or 15 cameras on it. And right before we got started, I got a message from backstage. They said, Hal wants to see you in the video truck. They had a 4-camera video truck back then. So I went back there, and Hal was laying in a chaise lounge with an IV in his arm. And he asked me, he said, he lived in Malibu too. He said, when we get home, can you take me home? And I said, what the hell's going on? He said, when I get around the Stones, I just party a little too hard. So
got that vitamin B drip going on, I guess, huh?
Something, yeah. Yeah, he was actually laying there and just,
Nothing like it.
I want to clarify for the audience that the IV drip was not the drug itself.
No, he was trying to rejuvenate himself. Yeah,
Oh, man. I guess they'd been out late the night before.
Now, one of the most important shots to the film is, to me, and it really speaks to what's really going on in the when Chance first leaves the house. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a 2001 Space Odyssey that is actually set to. Chance leaves the house and he's entering
Funkadelic remix.
Kind of funky junkie. Yeah, he's entering the real world for the first time, and it was done so well. Can you talk about what went into that shot?
Yeah, actually, we were in the exterior of that house was in Washington, D.C. So we, as he came out the house, and we stayed with him, dollied across the street. And then there was a lot of slums and bums, if I remember correctly, and they had some fires and stuff like that. So yeah, he was coming out to the real world because Chance had lived in that house his whole life, or almost his whole life. So yeah, it was his coming out party for himself.
I almost thought the movie was going to stop when he goes to that red car on the left-hand side. I'm like, man, if he just makes that his new home there, it sells people for this is what people do on the outside.
How many did that take? Multiple takes on that? Because it seemed like there was so much going on, and the motion of the camera, like, it was just so beautifully
played out.
I remember I had to I started in one direction, had to crawl over the dolly and keep going in the other. But I had a really good dolly grip, real good assistant. So we were a pretty gelled group, so we could do damn near anything.
Is it true that the entire film was shot with just 2 lenses, being a...
I saw that too, and I don't remember that, but it very well could be, because Caleb was a real stickler for, what you see with your eye is what he wants to get, and he hated zooms. So it's probably true, or we might have used a zoom a couple of times, but most of the time probably was like a 29 and a 75.
That's one of the things that I really liked about the movie, was that, like, every shot seemed to be eye level, like perfectly straight on. Like, you're just like the audience it's putting you in the perspective of just being another person in the room while these scenes are playing out. And it lent to like the surrealism that happens at the end of it. It's almost like you're watching, like you're in reality seeing this all take place. And it's a little bit more jarring when that happens at the end.
But not to mention, this is 1979. And to be honest with you, it was shot better than some of the stuff that came out last year.
Oh, yeah, way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
The scene with Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine in the back of the limo after they hit him had such an interesting and realistic look to it. It looked like natural. Like when I first saw it, it's like, this has to be natural lighting because it's unusually dark for what would be acceptable in a film. And the only lights you get were passing when it seemed like cars were passing. But then the backdrop, everything outside the windows was obviously projected. So I knew that this was shot like in a contained area. And then I was watching the behind the scenes and somebody was talking about how it was like a half of a limo with a 75 millimeter lens on them to give them some room to breathe. But it was just the lighting choice in that was really interesting to me. I personally liked it, but I feel like nowadays, if you tried to do something like that,
Nowadays you get fired for some of that stuff. It was so dark.
Yeah,
but that's Caleb's way, though. He didn't really care if somehow you saw him got in, who was in there, and you heard him talking. And every once in a while, half of that we did on the driveway, which is 3 miles long, up to the mansion. But half of it, you're right, it was rear projection, I think, on the stage. And an interesting part about that is when we started to do that rear projection back at the stage. We were on the stage where Peter Sellers had his first heart attack, and he freaked out, and we had to wrap for the day. He didn't know we were going to be on the exact same stage, and so he got in there and he just said, "I'm going home," So he was, and he did die young of a bad heart, and it was a thing that could have been fixed now in 2 days. With the advancement in heart medicine they have now and heart stuff, but he did. He knew he was suffering from this. I don't know exactly what the problem was, but we did wrap during that shot.
That's a shame because he was really talented, and I would only imagine where his career would have went in his later years if he had the opportunity.
Amazing, and a great guy, by the way.
It almost seems as if, like I say, not the guy you're getting on screen, this guy, but like you just said, a good, wholesome guy, and like I say, somebody who definitely left us before his talent peaked.
Before we started working with him, they told us, do not wear purple. Peter Sellers does not like purple, and no yellow pencils. He's got something about yellow.
He was an eccentric.
And so when I became good friends with Peter towards the end of the movie, and we had some great talks about life, and I said, "What the hell is this deal about purple and the pencils?" He said, "There's nothing. I love purple." He said,
Another IMDb fact.
You never know, these.
All right, so an IMDb has a piece of trivia that we were hoping you could maybe confirm or deny. A gay party goer who thinks Chance has suggested an interest in watching gay sex says,
"You wait here. I'll go get Warren."
This may be a dig at Warren Beatty, whose heterosexual activity was legendary. The professional and personal relationship between Beatty and Hal Ashby was at times virulent, with Ashby refusing to see Beatty during the waning months of his life.
Now, do you know if there was any truth to that?
I never heard a word of truth of any of that. I didn't know.
You're professional.
I didn't know. And I've done a couple pictures with Warren and played tennis at his house and stuff like that. And I've never heard anything between Hal and Warren like that. And I'm sure I would almost bet my house that Warren's not gay. So,
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
I had to do Seinfeld reference. I had to.
It's just wrong for Warren. Not his preference.
Yeah, that. So we'll go ahead and squash that. IMDb is 3 out of 7.
I've never heard that at all.
Well, that's what we're here for.
I'm doing the best I can. IMDb, I'm doing the best.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Being that you did this film and you already clearly stated it was your best film, it's your most favorite film that you have filmed, what was your favorite scene in the film? Not necessarily that you did film, but just maybe as someone watching it.
My favorite scene, obviously, was the end scene when he walks on water. And he made the scene because we put those planks under the water and waited for the sky where you wouldn't see the planks under the water. But we shot that. It was the last shot before we were coming back to LA. And Peter would just go out and stop, and then we're getting ready to wrap. And Hal said, Peter, you got anything else you want to do? And he said, let me try it one more time. And that's when he takes the umbrella and sticks it down like, he was really walking on water. So Peter made the whole deal, but that was just so much fun.
What was your interpretation of the ending?
It's kind of a Jesus Christ moment. You mean the walk across the water? It's just, he was, he didn't realize it, but he was like, JC or something, he was like renowned or different than most people, obviously.
The way I picked up on it, I thought it was my favorite scene too, because in this movie of just like everything is played, nothing punches up. There's no like ba-dum-dum. There's no
slapstick,
like over the top moments, and then this moment happens at the very end that is over the top in its own right. And it seemed like it was taking you out of the realm of reality into the realm of metaphor. And the metaphor that I took from it was like, all throughout the movie, Chance has his remote in his hand, and it's almost like anytime something was happening that he didn't like or wanted to change, he was like pressing the button on the remote as if he was almost trying to change the channel. And everything was working out for him because he didn't know any better that it couldn't work out. He went up and talked to the president because nobody ever told him you can't just go up and talk to the president.
Yeah.
Nobody ever told him you can't walk on water. So he just moseyed across.
Mind over matter, baby.
And he's now he's put in the position to be in like a place of power now where he can literally press a button and make things happen in reality. I thought it was just a beautiful moment that said so much, and just a
simple.
Jerzy Kosinski, the guy that wrote it, was with us on the movie, and for a couple of weeks he'd come and go, but and he ended up killing himself. He was like, he forget what happened exactly, but I guess I read most. I think he wrote 3 pretty good books. But Being There was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's
based off the novel that he.
It's an amazing story because it's so simple but so effective.
Yeah,
in its simplicity. That's the great thing about it, and you could really dissect it because it's like Chance himself. Chance is like a mirror to anybody he's talking to.
2 things came to mind with me when I know you're bringing up the scene. Number one, Nick, I want to say thank you because me and him have been watching and doing film forever, and people recommend films to us all the time. We're like, yeah, we'll watch it or whatever. But I found myself watching this like, number one, how did I not know about this? And number 2, I personally want to thank you for it because it goes into one of my catalogs of films that I know that I would want to watch again and again. But I will say this, that walking on water scene, we've covered Invention of Line, we've seen Everywhere Out There, we've seen so many movies where people walk on water, and we're talking about the 90s, 2000s. It's almost like you guys captured it perfectly. I don't need to be all up on you. Let your mind wander. You were just far enough back to say, how are they getting this shot so good and people can't get it right now? It's all so tacky and wacky now. He could have been Jesus.
It's like people now are trying to figure out how they could fit 7 shots in 30 seconds.
I'm going to come around, man, and you are getting this in the wide, right? We're going to close up. Like, come on, no, this is it, man.
Yeah, you're like an observer.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I did this tour of Ireland, a speaking tour, and they showed. There's about 4 of my movies. They're still huge in Ireland now. And the guy that I was on the tour with, actually was the author of my book. He showed it for, he's got 6 guys that every week they run a movie, and none of them had seen it. And I hadn't seen it for like 20 years or so. So we ran it. We had a big screen, ran it at his house. It still holds up really good. It's a damn good movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dublin they know what's going on in Dublin. They do.
They do. I lived in Dublin for about a month there, and we, went out and around from there. But and the Goonies, which you and I, we showed the Goonies in Galway, and there was a line around the block. It's still huge. And that was, that's not too long ago.
The truffle shuffle crosses all borders and boundaries.
Yeah. I had read about some disagreements regarding the outtakes being included in the credits, like with Peter Sellers, begging the producers to not put it in when they submitted it to Cannes, and him believing that it took away from the magic of the film or the suspension of belief in the character. I totally see where he's coming from if that was his argument, because it does kind of take you out of like. I forgot who Peter Sellers was when watching the movie, and then at the end you get reminded. But I think like for posthumously, there was something sweet about seeing him as himself.
Having fun with that character. What
You
were
know,
your
that's
thoughts
the
on
day
that?
we all got to love him, is because, you know, we shot that like halfway through. And actually, it's me that starts laughing a lot.
I ain't taking no jive.
You know, once he starts cracking up, I can hear myself. And I couldn't hold it in.
Raphael,
There was
looking
no
for the
way
black man, Raphael.
I could hold it. Cut your black ass, you know. But
It was so good.
that's the day you knew Peter Sellers was a real person. And we just had a ball. And actually, the only person I ever heard that didn't like the way it came into the film at the end there was Shirley. She thought it was really horrible to do to the film. But that's the only complaint I ever heard about it. And I love watching it. But I can understand also, you know, that
Right.
kind of took out from the reality
of chance. Like, you don't want to lose it. Because when it happened, it reminds you of 40-Year-Old Virgin when they go and do like Steve Carell breaks character, and then he's no longer that person. He's Steve Carell now. Yeah. So it kind of takes away. He's Santa Claus. You're not Santa Claus. You're Dad. Like, you know, Melvin Douglas. Tell me what he brought to the film and what was it like working with him?
He was pretty close to dying in reality. He was an old timer, and I think he'd won a couple Academy Awards, and we just all respected him. And he was, you know, we wanted to kind of, you know, be good, partial to him, and he'd say, "No, just do it. Let's just do it." In fact, we had a wheelchair for him in that scene, actually, when the president comes in, and he wouldn't get in the wheelchair; he'd walk anyways. But yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes when they all get in the library. And Chance gets in there just like he's one of them, talking to the president. It was,
you notice Chance's spirit had went on to being at that point, because earlier Chance in the movie says, "No, I'll walk," and it's almost like he's like something about Chance I trust, and he's like, you know what, I'm going to walk to meet the president. When Ben says,
that's right, yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Before we move on from being there, is there anything else about the production that you think fans of the film
would like to know?
It was just a great time, a couple of weeks or a month or so in Washington, D.C. at the mansion, which that big mansion, you know, is haunted. And I don't believe in ghosts, but I had a couple of because there's 100 and some odd rooms in that mansion. So I got to go. I went, you know, when we were in between shots, I got into every one of them. Actually, there's a bowling alley downstairs. That's where we had dailies at night. But that house was built in 1900. It was the Vanderbilts, you know, that built that place. So it was really interesting, that whole place. So yeah, it was kind of fun. And then a couple of weeks back here.
Now, hold on. Before you say this, Dave, I have to treat you like you're in court now, Nick. And because you opened the bottle, I have to ask. You said you got into most of those rooms. Did you get into the room with the extra oxygen being pumped into it?
No, I did not. Didn't hear about that one.
He said that quick. No, I was not in there. What was going on?
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you're right. There was a room like that. Definitely. Actually, I had a blood pressure machine in there that I used to always use, you know, get in.
So there we go.
Pressure.
See?
Yeah, that's where he'd always go to meet Hal for the meetings. Drip and some oxygen.
Yeah, actually, there was a room like that.
Yes.
So it's not coincidence that a few people passed away shortly after production. It was the house that was keeping them alive.
Jeez, man, right. I got to find that house, man.
That's you can, and I believe you could actually go and visit that house
today.
Oh yeah, it's a tour. It's a tour. It's really worth it too. The driveway is 3 miles long through this forest. And you get to that, you know, in fact, the shot where we bring the president's motorcade in, that's the front lawn. I mean, it's huge. Absolutely. It's unbelievable.
All right. Well, that's we've been in and out of being there.
Well, Nick, we want to thank you so much again for coming on again. And you know what? We have one more season come up, season 4. I don't even care if we cover a movie that you didn't do. We just want to have a conversation with you. You've always been fun to be around. And before you go, I want to know what's up with that shirt. I gotta know. I'm
a rugby. I played football at the University of Southern California, but I'm a big rugby fan. And I did some time down in New Zealand, and this is the rugby team. They all black.
Oh man. Can I get one of those shirts online, or how can I get
definitely. Yeah. Just go to Rugby, you know, and they have
based on based on that shirt, I was going to ask if you knew Raphael because I had a
Yeah, that is black ass. Yeah, the All Blacks are my favorite rugby team, and I got to play a little rugby too at USC. So I'm kind of a
Awesome.
rugby
I'm getting one
fanatic.
of those.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right.
Well, Nick, thank you so much again
Thank
for
you,
coming
guys.
on, and we look forward to the next time.
You're a
Sounds
legend,
good.
man. Thank you.
Anytime.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy, sir. Have a good night.
You too.